Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. I want to welcome you to part one of a two-part episode I'm calling One and Done. We're going to be looking at bands that released one album and for whatever reason decided to break up after the release of that one album. Now, in doing this list, there were a few bands that I remembered off the top of my head. But in doing some research, I remembered that there were other bands that I completely forgot about that I put on the list. Now, I could have done 20 bands because there are quite a few. But I decided to condense it down to 10. So in part one, I'm going to be doing numbers 10 through 6. And in part two, I'm going to be doing numbers 5 through 1. So kicking off part one, coming in at number 10 are the Sex Pistols. Never Mind the Bollocks, Here Come the Sex Pistols was released on October 28th, 1977 through Warner Brothers in North America and through EMI in the UK and in Europe. Upon release, the band, the album, sorry, reached number one in the UK and number 106 in the US charts. The band, consisting of John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, Sid Vicious, Steve Jones, and Paul Cook, basically were more infamous than they were famous, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. They appeared on a UK morning show in place of Queen because Queen could not make the commitment due to other commitments they had. So EMI, in their infinite ignorance at the time or stupidity, decided to put on the Sex Pistols instead of Queen because they needed to promote the album and get them more exposure. Well, that turned out to be a real big mistake because the band didn't really want to be there. You could tell that they were disgusted with the whole idea. They were total anti everything, anti establishment, anti authority. So, you can just imagine where this is going to go. They ended up hurling insults at the host of the morning show. And instead of canceling the interview outright when they started, the host, in his stupidity, encouraged them to hurl more insults at him. So they each took turns. Well, as a result, the band were banned off of UK TV for a while, or pretty much permanently, and the host ended up losing his job from the morning show. So, in the case of exposure, it backfired for everybody involved. Coming in at number 9 are four non-blondes with Bigger, Better, Faster, More. Bigger, Better, Faster, More was released on October 13th, 1992 through Interscope Records. The band, one of the primary members of the band was Linda Perry, lead singer, main songwriter, or one of the songwriters, I should say, guitarist. Linda Perry would go on to work with other artists such as Pink, Christina Aguilera. The album Bigger, Better, Faster, More, upon release, reached number 13 in the US charts, number 4 in the UK charts. The main single from the album was What's Up. Now, even if you don't know the name of the song, the title of the song, sorry, you do know the chorus for the song. It's anthemic, it's catchy. It was all over the radio in 1992, 93. Other songs of note on the album, from the album, I should say singles, were Spaceman and Dear Mr. President. Now, even though the album reached high on the charts and was a major success for Interscope and for the band, Linda Perry was not happy with the outcome of the album, and they started to argue during the making of the second album. So they just decided to break up. And Linda Perry would go on to a successful career as a producer, songwriter, and release her own solo albums. That's number 9. Coming in at number 8 are Storm Corrosion. Storm Corrosion released their debut self-titled album on May 7th, 2012. The band consisted of Michael Ackerfeld of Opeth and Stephen Wilson of Porcupine Tree. The album was released on Roadrunner Records, reaching number 86 in the US charts. This album is nothing like you would hear from Opeth in terms of the earlier recordings with the growling vocals, etc. It is listed as a progressive rock, folk, ambient album. It is very much that. 6 tracks on the album, fantastic, lush arrangements, intricate chord sequences, just amazing. A lot of use of keyboards, string arrangements, a lot of textures. Okay, it's very dense, but also very accessible. This is an album that if you want to put on and turn off the lights, like I've always said, and just sit back and close your eyes, you're taken away on a journey. It's fantastic. Songs on the album, there are 6 tracks in total. Drag Ropes, which leads off the album. The title track, which clocks in at like 10 minutes plus. Very intricate, different sections to it. Other songs of note are the rest of the album. Happy, Hag, Loch Howell, and if I say this wrong, I'm sorry, Legend Innen. Legend Innen is another track that clocks in at over 10 minutes. Basically, I think the shortest track on the album is something like 3 or 4 minutes long. I do not know why this album only reached number 86 on the US charts. It has been re-released in vinyl as a double album. It is a fantastic album. You can check it out on YouTube. You can also get copies on Discogs and Amazon for a higher price. But you know what? It is a very good album. Please check it out. Okay. Coming in at number 7, we have the Armada. The Armada released their debut self-titled album on November 4th, 2008. The band consisting of Jeff Martin, Wayne Sheehy, and Jay Cortez. Jeff Martin of the Tea Party. The album was released on Kingdom Records. I believe it did well in Australia, but that's the only territory that it did well in. Songs of note are Morocco, I Love You, Chinese Whispers. It is a fantastic album. Heavy guitar work, intricate guitar work from Jeff Martin. A lot of use of Middle Eastern instruments on the album, sorry. It's basically a continuation of the work that Jeff Martin was doing with the Tea Party. After the release of the album, and I do believe they did a short tour for the album, the band broke up, and Jeff Martin would go on to form a Jeff Martin 777 with Jay Cortez. This is a fantastic album. I was able to get a copy, a double disc copy of it. You can get this album on Discogs. Amazon wouldn't have it anymore. But if you want to check it out, please do. It is a fantastic album. Coming in at number 6 and ending off part 1 of this series, we have Arcadia with So Red the Rose. Now, just a bit of background. Arcadia were an offshoot project from the band Duran Duran. The members of the band of Duran Duran decided to go their separate ways to do solo projects. Andy Taylor, John Taylor would go on to form Power Station with Robert Palmer and Tony Thompson and release their self-titled album, which was really successful. Nick Rose, Roger Taylor, and Simon Le Bon would go to Paris to record So Red the Rose. It was released on November 18th, 1985 through Capitol and Parlophone, reaching number 23 in the US charts and number 30 in the UK charts, produced by Alan Satkin and the band. Alan Satkin had worked with the band on Seven and the Ragged Tiger. The album is considered art pop um, art rock. It's very textured, very European sounding. A lot of keyboard um, overdubs and a lot of keyboard synth textures on it. Very avant-garde sounding. In terms of the musicians on the album, you had contributing their talents Carlos Alomar of David Bowie fame, David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, Herbie Hancock, Sting, Grace Jones. It was a fantastic collaboration, a fantastic venture for the band. The fact that it did better in the US than it did in the UK is a surprise. Songs from the album, the singles that were released were Election Day, The Promise, which features Sting on backup vocals. That one track, The Promise, features Sting, as I just said, David Gilmour, Herbie Hancock on piano. Amazing. It's an amazing track, 7 minutes and change. Other tracks I've noted are The Flame, the fourth and final single from the album, released in July of '86. Goodbye is Forever, Missing, which also features David Gilmour on guitar, Rose Arcana, which starts off the second side, which is like a 59-second moody instrumental piece. The whole album was just an exercise, in my very humble opinion, in brilliance. It's a fantastic album. There have been many reissues of the album. There is I do believe it's a triple disc version where you have the second disc is of remixes and single edits, and the third disc is a DVD or a Blu-ray of the videos that they released and background interviews and documentaries on the making of the album. So that's it for part one of my One and Done series. Please stay tuned for part two, where I'm going to be covering numbers 5 through 1. Please, down there below, down there in the comments, please put your comments as to what you think of these choices, or do you have any other ones that I may have forgotten about? Anyways, that's all for now. I will see you soon with part two of One and Done. Bye for now.